So good morning, I'm Helen Letchfield. I'm the co-founder of P&P Coaching, Parent and Professional. And our theme this week in terms of International Men's Day, which is on the 19th of November, is very much around dads. So I'm joined today by one of our dads coaches, Ian Dinwiddy, to chat about International Men's Day and what that means to us in 2022. So welcome, Ian, and perhaps you could just introduce yourself first of all.
Hi, Helen. Yeah, thank you very much for having me. As you say, my name is Ian Dinwiddy. I specialise in paternity coaching in particular. So in particular, supporting dads as they navigate the parental transition, but ultimately helping men to understand how to be a great dad and still have a great career, which I think is a really important part of modern society.
Great, thanks, Ian. So first of all, I guess, what does International Men's Day mean to you?
Yeah, I think International Men's Day is a really interesting concept. So I think it's an opportunity to pause in many ways and to reflect on some of the challenges and the opportunities that are involved in looking after men. We make up an enormous proportion of the population. Perhaps it's very easy to assume that men have got everything sorted and that life is working out well for them. You know, we're not a minority group by any stretch of the imagination. You know, putting to one side sort of intersectionality, then actually it can be easy to assume that men are okay. And I think International Men's Day is an opportunity to pause and just reflect on, is that actually true? What are some of the challenges that men face that perhaps, you know, we need to focus on, we need to understand a little bit more of in terms of society, in terms of the workplace, and with broader kind of challenges around caring responsibilities, and understand how actually a focus on men can be of great benefit both to individuals, to their families, but also for society more generally, as we start to kind of build sort of, I think, a more holistic view of the world, and actually looking at men, you know, specializing in looking at men on one day of the week, you know, sorry, one day of the year, not one day of the week, and one day of the year is an opportunity to do that and just take a step back and reflect on some of those challenges that perhaps men don't necessarily talk about enough.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, we do the recognition, of course, every March of International Women's Day. And as an organisation, P&P, and together with you in the past, Ian, we've done a lot of work around International Men's Day. We celebrate it. We've probably celebrated it every year for the last 4 or 5 years. And it is massively important. You started to touch on some of the benefits, but when we're thinking about organisations and anyone who might be viewing this from HR or D&I or L&D, why would you say from an organisational perspective it's important to acknowledge and support International Men's Day?
I think one of the key aspects is that for a lot of men, the pressures and challenges they face are often internalised. It's not something that society kind of teaches young men and young boys to be vulnerable about the challenges that they might face and how those have knock-on implications for mental health in particular. I think that's often, you know, a big focus around International Men's Day is around men understanding their mental health pressures and also getting used to talking about those things. So I think first and foremost, it's about creating a forum where we deliberately have these conversations. Certainly, I think as, you know, as an undercurrent, that kind of a sense of actually good mental health for men who perhaps aren't talking about it sort of naturally within their own peer group. You know, thinking about that deliberately becomes really, really important. And I think that's one of the kind of key opportunities is to normalize conversations about masculinity and being a man in, you know, in the 21st century where things are much more complicated than certainly you know, certainly our father's generation.
Yeah, it's definitely getting better, isn't it? I think more and more men are getting much more involved in talking about their family responsibilities, their parenting responsibilities, and looking for ways to align this to their career is definitely getting better. But yeah, I agree. I think that support that this can give to continue to, I guess, allow men to open up and to encourage them to get together, to network, to open up and solve some of these big challenges, especially around work and family balance, it is really important. So thinking about some practical things then this week, because you know, we've only got this sort of week, I guess the next 2 weeks to fully immerse ourselves in International Men's Day. So what do you think are some of the ways in which organisations can support and show their support for International Men's Day over the next few weeks?
I think there are a number of things that that can sort of take place. Anything that involves getting men together, deliberately getting them together to have conversations about what it's like to be a man, what it's like to be a father potentially, what it's like to have caring responsibilities. Open these conversations, deliberately create environments where it's okay to talk. I think this is, the single biggest challenge. I was talking to some men this morning. We were prepping for an event for International Men's Day, and we were talking about how infrequent the father-to-father type conversations are within daily life. And I'm not just talking about fatherhood. Obviously, my speciality is working with dads, but when International Men's Day more generally, I think the important thing is creating an environment where it's okay to talk, okay to share, and maybe off the back of that, you can have men having sort of, for those of us who are in office kind of environments and however long that happens, kind of creating kind of water cooler moments where men can say, oh, did you see, were you at the event? Did you go to that webinar? Did you go to that workshop that, the business put on? What did you learn from it? I thought it was really interesting. That speaker was talking about X and Y, and also thinking about sort of seniority and an opportunity around International Men's Day to encourage senior male leadership, role models, and that's what they are ultimately, to be open about the pressures that they face. Maybe that's mental health, or whether it's balancing sort of work and caring responsibilities, and leading by example. Because for many men, when they're thinking about, what kind of behaviours should I be showing at work, they're looking at their senior male leaders and saying, actually, what are they doing? And if we can use International Men's Day to open up that conversation at all levels, but also to show and role model really positive benefits. So really positive behaviours which lead to positive benefits in the workplace, I think more broadly for society.
Yeah, I think that role modelling thing is massive, isn't it? I think it's really an opportunity for some of the leaders in the organisation to really think about how they're talking to their employees, both male and female, how they're spending their time, how open they are about their diaries and their commitments. So, not being afraid of saying that they're finishing at 4 o'clock to do the school run and that sort of thing, I think can really, really help. And also, I guess, profiling things on intranets is always a good one, isn't it? So actually having an interview with a certain man in an organisation, several men, and posting those, if there's any sort of tips and checklists around how to balance work and family and that sort of thing. That I know we've definitely got a lot of those hanging around internally, haven't we? So just sharing something like that, which helps promote this idea that men can play an active family role as well as do well in their careers. All of these things are going to hopefully help get men talking a little bit more about some of the challenges that they face.
Absolutely, yeah.
Great. Okay, thanks, Ian. That's great to get your thoughts.
Thanks, Helen.